Go. Thanks, Jason. Hi everyone. So, I have a laser pointer, and we're getting back to basics today because this stuff happens. It's we all want to talk about flashy tactics and new fancy stuff, but meanwhile we're dealing with projects that have got festering issues and we can't prioritise them. So that's what today is about. Back to basics and trying to make those basics not so boring. So if you don't know anything about me, I've started building websites and playing with search engines in about 1997. I was kind of involved in the early days of the Internet Project, and Tim Berners-Lee is one of my inspirations. And I'm sure there's plenty of people here who used to have to get online using a modem. To do some audience participation, who wants to put their hand up about using a modem? Oh yeah, so we can relate. But I've always kind of focused on technical SEO, although really it's sort of the technical side of SEO, but all the different elements of different types of SEO, but really just thinking it from a technical point of view. I'm a big advocate for the SEO community, and of course, as I was saying, back in the early days, the internet was all about sharing information, and that's really how it all started. So I've still got that philosophy, and some people call me the Godfather. That nickname started, and I always say I think it's because of my grey whiskers.
It's imbued in a clock now. It's real.
So yes, today we're going to be not so boring, and but here we go. So we all want to be the SEO hero, and you do feel like a hero when you got some wins, because SEO is not that easy, right? Even if you've been doing it for a long time, winning that organic traffic is not so easy. But you get some wins and you're waving your arms in the air like a champion. But then things get real. Something changes on the project. They decide to build a new website, do a site migration. Something happens on their server. I don't know. All kinds of things go wrong. And all of a sudden the project becomes more demanding and we've got some battles to fight. So how do we stay prioritised? How do we make sure we don't miss those important things? And it's just let's say we're talking about a new project. We really want to start understanding the objectives, the targets, who are the audience, competition, and what realistically can SEO promise? And I think perhaps SEO often gets sold and oversold, and perhaps project stakeholders, whether they be clients or in-house, perhaps they often buy the sales pitch. But so here's your first priority, is your planning and strategy. As I said, it's back to basics. I'm sure everyone does this. Planning, strategy. So this is based on my own experience, my own approach to all this stuff. And at this point, if it's a new project or a new client, you're trying to win the client. And I'm sure everyone just goes to one of the tools, drops in the domain name, copies out the report, sends it across and says, hey, you got all these issues. Well, you can do that. You can do a bit more than that too, but this is really about trying to start the conversation around what some of these issues are. But at this point, you also should be understanding what are the business goals and what are their objectives, what do they want to achieve. And of course, you want to be able to win the project. And then you can get into your strategy and your planning. So here's something that I found really works to help you stay prioritised so you don't get off track, and that is when the strategy is being developed, to develop it in conjunction with the stakeholders so you're working through the process, they have input into the strategy rather than sort of proposing a strategy and sending it to the stakeholder. Because they don't sort of have any skin in the game. They might agree to it and say, wow, that's great, you saved me all this time, you've made a strategy for me. But when things go wrong, they have not agreed, they're not involved in this. It was just your strategy that you put forward. So now your priorities are dependent on their approval. Whereas if they're involved, then they're involved in your priorities. And so then estimating realistic implementation timeframes. And a lot of your initial auditing or your analysis is going to have a lot to do with this. But also your availability and your capacity to commit. I think this gets overlooked when we're excited about winning a new project. We sort of put our hands up in the air and promise all kinds of things. But we need to remember the time requirements for success and also budget constraints. And so I'm sure we've all had that feeling like we're a hamster running around on the wheel, so we want to avoid that, because you want to have that conversation about that with them. So also establishing the goals, and this is just more discussion about what are the business goals, what does success actually look like, and are they realistic? And I mean, it just all depends how desperate you are for the work, I guess, because if the goals are unrealistic but you're saying yeah, then when it comes to a point where you're talking about priorities, the whole conversation's gone. And so this one here is snapshots and benchmarking, and I've done this for a long time at the beginning of any project, is to really get some realistic snapshots and store them as a basis for the beginning of the project. This is important because at some point you're going to have a conversation where it's like, oh, we're not growing as much as we want to, or things aren't going, the way we thought, or just something. You get a change of executives, or whoever you're dealing with has changed, and they don't know how things started. Over time, we can refer back to the snapshots, the benchmarks, and so second priority is setting up. And how basic is this? Google Analytics. Here we are at a search marketing conference, talking about one of the most basic things that there is to do with SEO. Well, whether it's Google Analytics or some other tracking system. I would like some more audience participation. How many times have you taken on a project, whether it be a small business or even enterprise, and you get involved to find out that they just don't have tracking? So this is basic stuff. But the other one here is use annotations, because that's definitely going to be something that you're going to want to refer to as well. And that day when you get the call to say that we've lost heaps of traffic and what went wrong, you're going to need to look at those annotations in your analytics. And that's where you can also put things like milestones or implementations, things like that. Still on the basics here. Google Analytics, or well, it could be Bing Webmaster Tools or whatever. But again, have looked at some pretty major brands to find that their Google Webmaster Tools, Google Search Console, or is either it's not even verified sometimes, and or it becomes verified and unverified, or there's critical issues. Let's say there's like server 500 errors spiraling out of control, and they've been like that for months and months. And in terms of priorities, I don't know. This seems like it should be definitely one of the major priorities. Not necessarily sure that the client always understands that, or the stakeholders, but this is definitely something this is all about communication with them, helping them understand this is major and basic. Project management system, and again, this is really a communication tool, but make sure the agreed targets, the things you talked about and agreed on, the terms of your project are in that project management system, because that's going to be a focus of your conversation. That helps you to keep things prioritised. Of course, you need to, once you've worked out your strategy and your plan, you definitely want to make sure that you have you spent time planning out the project, planning out the tasks, putting the milestones and due dates into that system. Otherwise, you'll be just flying from one month to the next. The monthly reporting, again, is a communication tool, and of course we're reporting on things like progress and milestones, issues, and it's a reminder of what you've agreed to as well, so they can help you to stay prioritised. Just going to get a drink of water. So, more audience participation. Has everybody seen Jason Munn's t-shirt?
I'll show you. Lips you a bird too.
I found out about his t-shirt after I made these slides. This is the fourth priority, but actually it probably could actually be your first. Critical SEO issues. Indexability. So because I'm mostly focused on technical, indexability is massive, and it's persisting, and Google's changing the game about how easy it is for people to get indexed. So this is a huge priority. So URLs can be indexable or not indexable depending on a range of considerations. And it's not just all about no index. It's things like, well, here's just one example. There's multitudes of things, but here's one. I've seen this. Your head contains invalid HTML. So let's say there's a no script tag in the head, and with like H1, this breaks the head, and it will be missed. So the crawler has issues with this. It won't be indexed. It causes your page to become not indexable. So of course the fix is to take the no script out of the head and place it into the body. Canonicals. The canonical is a big deal, and it's not always easy to get them right. You don't just put the canonical tag on there and then your problem's solved. But if you put them outside of the head into the body, it will be ignored. So now your canonicals are not working at all. But this can happen. if the page is getting built by JavaScript or some other things, these kinds of things can happen. Remove it and put it into the head section. So what about a no index, no follow of a canonicalized URL? So canonicals actually consolidate and combine indexing signals. So what that means is if page A has a no index set, then this could be passed through to the canonicalized page B. So now you've got both pages that are no index because you were trying to get your other page to pass value across. The fix for that is to remove the robots, remove the canonical, and so remove the robots directive so as not to interfere with the canonicalization. Redirects also are a massive priority, and there's so many examples of projects where redirects are just prolific. People put a redirect on there and think it's going to solve the problem. So crawlers are forced to follow redirects if they're excessive or misconfigured. Crawl budgets can be impacted. And what this means is you may not end up getting all your pages crawled, even some of your important pages. So, big priority. This sort of thing where a broken internal URL redirect. So it's redirected to a 404 page or to a server 500 error. And so of course, to fix this, simply redirect it to a page which gives a status code of 200. But here's the thing, update all those internal links to point to the new page. That sounds pretty basic, but how many projects have you worked on where all the links are not updated, internal links don't get updated? It's quite common. But that should be a big priority because your internal linking is such a massive priority for Google. Remove the redirect if the page has been removed, and remove all links to the redirected URL. So internal URL is in a chained redirection loop. So this causes the page can't be crawled or indexed. Here we go. You got page A is redirecting to page B, redirecting to page C, and then back to page A. These kind of things can sit and fester in projects, especially with projects where you've got, let's say, tens of thousands or even millions of URLs. This stuff can be really prolific. So to fix it, you are going to want to, this stuff takes time to do. And if you're saying it's a priority, but someone else, your stakeholder, is saying, I'm not so sure, we don't care about those pages anyway, you're going to have to find ways of, helping them. So if you've been developing your communication with them, developing your trust with them, then when it's time to come and do this sort of stuff, really time-consuming stuff, then you're good to go. But you want to remove the chain so you can determine, because this stuff gets really messy, you're going to need to determine all these URLs. Once you find the 200, then redirect the URL separately. So internal links, I'm sure actually that most people here will realise by now that it's probably one of the most important things. Google's taking away things like your URL parameter tools, they're ignoring your canonicals, all kinds of stuff. And so your internal links are one of the main signals. So maybe I'll get some more audience participation at this point. Who thinks that so far as you're on page and getting Google to index the right page, who thinks that internal links are probably one of the biggest signals for that? Alright, well, we're on the same page. Anyone else who Who disagrees? That's also good. People don't disagree with me. So hugely important for navigational and structure, and also impacting user experience and search engine performance. Here's one. So broken internal. So URLs were not successfully crawled, and the URL returned a crawl status of either not found, error, or forbidden. And this is basic stuff, but it continues. So yes, please go ahead and address these issues. This one here is interesting because the 403, you often get that when you run your tools over certain sites. But it can also happen when Googlebot tries to crawl. And but go ahead and look at your firewalls, any security settings. Cloudflare can do it because if your tools are getting 403 forbidden, and if you go into your tools and set the user agent as Googlebot and it's still getting 403, then it's it sounds really basic. I'm talking about this, but I'm talking about enterprise stuff where this is happening, right? So, XML sitemaps. A well-configured XML sitemap allows you to specify which URLs you want to be indexed. So, sure, you don't have to have an XML sitemap. You can just let Google figure it out. But this is where you can specify which URLs you want to be indexed. So if this is your authoritative source, if you treat this like that way and work on it. So what about when your sitemaps contain no index URLs? It gives conflicting information to search engines which may result in no index URLs getting indexed. And that's kind of also a bit of a surprise to find out that no index URLs are actually getting indexed. So anyway, remove those from your sitemaps. Also 404s that are in your sitemaps. Goes without saying, but yes, we do see this stuff. Simply remove the 404s. Security is also a big deal. It's a major concern, and Google treats this really, really importantly. So mixed content is a massive thing, where you're especially for third-party resources, scripts and CSSs, things coming from CDNs or whatever. You're basically giving an attacker a possibility to take control of your page. And so this should be a major priority. HTTP URLs. I mean, if everyone hasn't updated to HTTPS yet, I don't know why not, but it's still happening. I'm still seeing this. Organic traffic, of course, this is the holy grail of SEO, is to get that organic traffic. I mean, it's the whole aim of SEO. But if you've got pages that are in your search results that are leading to bad pages, you're going to want to work on that stuff. So URLs are canonicalized to another URL, but it's still receiving search traffic. You've set your canonicals. You're telling Google which one you want, but the wrong page is getting indexed. So Google's ignoring your canonicals. There's a bunch of ways of going about fixing this, which is all standard stuff. But these issues do persist. So organic traffic to not found is, I'm sure that everyone agrees, this should be a major priority, that you've got a search result and when they click on it, it goes to a 404 page. This stuff is still happening all the time. So just do not ignore that. I'm laughing because it sounds so fundamental, but this is happening on a large scale for lots of enterprise clients. So here, how much time we got?
No.
No time. All right, I've got a whole section here I'm going to need to skip over. So I'm sure everyone's got much bigger lists of standard optimization than this. Content marketing, I'm going to just say this whole section, which is, I'm going to just refer to what Lyndon was talking about. So ignore all of this and just believe what Lyndon said. Except for that slide. So here we go. Your top priority is to stay prioritized. Again, go back to your objectives and stay on track. Keep your communication, regular analysis and auditing. So this is also like just keep your eyes on the analysis, on the auditing in the Google Search Console and all the other tools. But keep that communication open about the issues, so it's not a surprise, so you're not sitting there trying to prioritize things. This one's interesting, not curtailing to the stakeholders when they change their objectives, when they move the goalposts. And if it gets to a point where it's just non-negotiable, don't be afraid to lose the project. If you're good at what you do, you'll get more projects. And so, summary, keep doing that analysis, get agreements on your objectives, develop your strategy and your plan and work to it, and yes, do all the standard stuff, keep focused on the critical issues, don't move the goalposts, and really it's all about communication. Got some resources. When you get the slides, you can look some of this stuff up. All right, so now we're heroes again. We've been through the dark night, and we've worked on all the issues, and we're heroes again. So, thanks everyone.